Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Let's zoom out a little bit. In order to do today's In order to do today's lesson, we need to first smile, right? And first realize that we're talking about circles. And first realize that we're going to talk about something called pie. Now, everybody likes pie, right? Pizza pie, blackberry pie, apple pie. Yeah, he's serving it hot, blueberry pie with some vanilla ice cream on top, melting through it. Everybody loves pie, right? So why shouldn't everybody like pie when we're talking about pie in math or geometry? Well, because some people get confused. Okay, what is pi? What is it? Well, I got to tell you, it's not 3.14. A lot of people say, oh, pi is 3.14, right? And I wish that we would use other numbers to estimate the value of pi besides 3.14, because that's what 3.14 is. It's the most popular estimate for the value of pi. So what is it, right? It's 3.14. You could say it's about 3. You could say it's about 3.1. You could say it's about 3.14. You can say it's about 22 sevenths. You could say it's about 3.14159, right? You'd be more and more precise with your estimate, but it's still an estimate, okay? What is pi? All pi really is, it's a ratio. Now, remember what a ratio is. That's when you have a number on top over a number on the bottom. Now, I use C and D for a reason there, because it is a ratio of the distance around a circle, right? All the way around the circle, divided by the distance across a circle, straight across, one side to the other through the center, right? That's called the diameter. And the distance around the circle, the perimeter of a circle, has a special name. It's called the circumference. That's why I use the C and the D. So when you have a circle and the distance around that circle is circumference, right? Am I talking like a ghost now? The ghost of pi, right? The distance around that circle, and you divide it by the distance across the circle, it'll be pi. Now, what's that mean? Well, for every circle in the world, it can be a circle that big, it can be a circle this big. It can be the distance around the equator divided by the distance from the North Pole straight through the center of the Earth to the South Pole. That's a diameter, right? And the equator is a circumference, right? You remember way back when explorers first started sailing, some of them wanted to circumnavigate the world. That means go all the way around the Earth on a ship. I think Magellan did that. Anyway, the distance around a circle divided by the distance across, no matter how big or small the circle is, you get the same exact number. Now, that exact number is not one of those numbers that comes out to an exact point. They have figured out pi to millions and millions of decimal points. It's a non-repeating decimal. But in order to use it, we end up having to estimate it around to a certain point, right? And depending on how exact you have to be, will determine where you round. Some people just round it as 3. Okay, some people round it as 3.1. The most popular, unfortunately, in math books, you think they'd mix it up a little bit. They always seem to want to use that same exact 3. And that, I think, creates misconceptions. Remember, misconception, that means when you miss conceptually knowing something, right? You make a mistake, right? It's about that, right? You can say 3.1 pi and then use those squiggly lines, just like the squiggly line on top of the pie, 3.14. But really, you can also say it's about 3, right? You can also say it's about 3.14159, right? And you can keep on going, right? An 8th grade teacher used to have his kids memorize pi up to as many digits as they could. Some of them would memorize it over 100 digits, right? That's pretty cool. Anyway, so that's what pi is. Now, how does that help us? Well, if I know that pi is equal to the circumference of a circle divided by the diameter, Well, I can do some math, okay, because it's easy to measure a straight line, right? Uh, so if I wanted to figure out what is the circumference of a circle, well, we just use a little algebra. How do I isolate that D or that C? Well, I have to get rid of a divided by D, right? Remember when we do our algebra? So if I have pi equals C divided by D, well, then C divided by D equals pi, right? And if I rewrote it this way, C divided by D equals pi, and gave myself some space because my goal was to find out what the circumference is, well, how do I get rid of a divided by D? Well, do the inverse operation or opposite. What's the opposite of divided by D? Hopefully you're yelling, times D, Mr. Daniel, right? Yeah, and if I do it to this side, do the same thing to the other side, right? Always, right? And these will cancel out. All that's left on this side is the C, or circumference, and all that's left on that side is the diameter times pi. And guess what? If I want to figure out the circumference of the circle, and I know how far it is across the circle, I can figure it out by multiplying it by pi. Now, I'm going to have to estimate the value of pi, right? But I can do it. So if I were to have a worksheet that had a bunch of problems and they wanted me to figure out the circumference, I could do it, right? Yeah. What is the circumference of this circle? If the diameter is 4, well, it's a little more than 4 times 3, or 12. Now, if they said to use 3.14, then I got to go multiply 3.14 times 4. What do you get when you get that? 1256, but this was really 3.14, so I got to go 2 spots in my answer. 12.56 centimeters for A. Okay, that's all you got to do. For this one, I'm going to go 90 times 3.14. Why 3.4? Because they said to use that. Sometimes you won't use 3.14, you'll use 22 sevenths. And in a lot of situations, you'll use 3 or 3.1. Okay, so what do I do on this? I do 4 times 3.14. 90 times 3.14. Okay, now this is not the distance across the circle, is it? That's called the radius. To get all the way across, I need another 3. So on this one, be careful. You got to go 6 times 3.14, which means what am I going to do here? 2.1, another 2.1. That's 4.2 times 3.14. Okay, so don't get caught there. Now, that halfway across, I don't know if you guys remember, that's called a radius. Okay, so if they say the radius is 250, that means the diameter is 2 of those, 500, and now I got to go 500 times 3.14, right? See how that works? Don't get caught. They're trying to fool you, right? All right, and on these, you're doing 14 is the diameter. You're doing 14 times, they said to use 22 sevenths this time. And you can cross cancel, make that easier if you want. All right, 7 goes into the top, 7 goes into the bottom. Okay, so you're going to do that on these. Again, you're going to go down to the bottom. You're going to use 3.14. The wheels on a bike have a diameter of 27. How far does the bike travel with each turn? Well, think about a wheel turning, right? If I start here with this is on the top and roll all the way, so that's on the top again. Well, how far did I go? Well, I went this far, right? All the way around, which is the circumference. It's kind of cool. The circumference of a wheel is how far it travels when it spins around one time. Okay, so you're going to use those facts to answer all these, and this is your last graded math assignment for your 6th grade career. Wow. Imagine that. What does that mean for next week? That means everything you do next week is going to be either for fun or extra credit, or hopefully both. Okay? All right, you guys, have an awesome Friday. Have an awesome weekend. Hopefully you have a little bit better understanding of circumference now.